I know I usually have a long opening spiel about the topic of the video, but that's the only reaction I have to the subject of helmets in hockey. We all know for a long time back in the day, both players and goalies didn't care for head protection, taking pucks to the face and big hits onto the ice. When exactly were helmets used for both players and goalies? Well, that's what I'm here to tell ya. Just letting y'all know I'm not mentioning any practice helmets, so some honorable mentions would be Johnny Bower's shield mask, and Eddie Giroux of the Toronto Marlboro Bros, who's the earliest mention of a mask worn before practice. Well, the story takes us all the way back to 1927, specifically at Queen's University in Kingston. Elizabeth Graham, the goalie for the team, wore a fencing helmet to protect her teeth, and respect to her, I don't want my teeth looking like Ovechkin's. As good as he looks. Meanwhile, in the same year, George Owen became the first player to regularly wear a helmet, which was the same helmet he used to play football in. There actually isn't much conclusive proof that he was the first to wear a helmet, but it's worth mentioning. 3 years later, in 1930, Clint Benedict dons a nose guard that was used in American football to protect his nose after an injury, but retires the mask after his injuries had healed. Nobody's caught a clue yet. I feel like something bad is going to happen. Something bad happens. Toronto's King Clancy trips Boston's Eddie Shore, and in retaliation, Eddie Shore hit Leafs right winger Ace Bailey, causing him to hit his head right off the ice. He almost died, and apparently a priest in the audience gave him his last rites. He survived, but that was the end of Ace's playing career. Art Ross, the coach/general manager of the Bruins, engineered a new helmet design, and when the players skated onto the ice against Ottawa, most had the new helmets. Many players ditched the helmets later, except Eddie Shore, who must have had a wake-up call from the hit because he wore it for the rest of his career. Sometime after the Ace Bailey incident, Leafs players were made to wear helmets, and famously, King Clancy tossed his helmet off within the first few minutes of the game. The helmets were generally unpopular with fans, media, and other players. A few players such as Des Smith, Bill Masinko, Dick Clapper, and Don Gallagher continued to use helmets. Now remember, while all this is happening, goalies are just watching from the sidelines, unfazed by all this controversy. On the other side of the world in Japan, Teji Hanma decides to wear a simple goalie mask to the 1936 Olympic Games in Germany. It resembles a baseball catcher's mask being made of leather with a cage on the front. Oh, and his beautiful glasses. Can't forget the glasses. During the original Six era, Maurice Richard and Elmer Losch would sometimes wear helmets. Charlie Burns wore one to protect the metal plates in his head from a pre-NHL hockey injury. Now, the most famous mask we all know, thanks to everyone's favorite thriller Friday the 13th, came from Jacques Plante of the Montreal Canadiens. On November 1st, 1955, during a game between Montreal and the Rangers, Jacques was hit by a shot from Andy Bathgate. After being stitched up, he refused to go onto the ice unless he could wear his practice mask. Tom Blake, the coach, thought it would block his vision, but with no backup goalies, he reluctantly let him play with the mask. Jacques became unstoppable wearing the mask for the rest of his career. People judged him, I assume they called him a pansy, but he compared it to jumping out of a plane without a parachute, which I mean, he's not wrong. As the 60s turned to the 70s, goalies would wear the face-hugging mask more and more. Jerry Shevers was the first to decorate his mask with stitches for every hit the mask received. Back on the player side of things, another tragedy is about to occur. On January 13th, 1968, Minnesota North Stars center Bill Masterson is taking the puck down center ice and is nailed by Oakland Seals defender Larry Kahn and Ron Harris. Unfortunately, Masterson died 2 days later as a result of his injuries, which shook the hockey world. Things definitely needed to change. Masterson's legacy as a player has been honored in many ways, but the most memorable is the Bill Masterson Memorial Trophy. The trophy is awarded annually to the NHL player who best exemplifies the quality of perseverance, sportsmanship, and dedication to ice hockey. The 1972 Summit Series had the entire Soviet Union team wearing helmets, and goalie Vladislav Tretiak started to wear a helmet/cage goalie mask. By 1979, more than 70% of players were wearing helmets because when the players said they would die for their teams, they didn't mean it literally. In August of 1979, the then president of the NHL, John Ziegler, finally announced that helmets would become mandatory for incoming players in the NHL. Any player who signed a professional contract prior to June 1st, 1979 didn't need to wear a helmet. The last player to play without a helmet was Craig McTavish, who played his final game during the 1996-97 season for the St. Louis Blues. As time moved on, helmet designs were changed to become more aerodynamic, add more protection, and allow yourself to see the puck more clearly. I feel like the helmet, no matter what would have became a thing, I think, But thanks to these people's sacrifices, the game will forever be changed.